Well, look, number one, it's a very, I mean, it's a high traffic area, very regulated, meaning, there's air traffic control. I mean, you're 3 or 4 miles from the White House, right? So, as a pilot, you have to make sure you are 100% on your game when you're flying this approach. It sounds to me like, he was in a final descent on the approach for runway 33. There was also another jet taking off too, right? So air traffic control, when I go back and listen to the audio, it sounds like the military helicopter, was taking off of another smaller military base, and he was supposed to have visual on the CRJ 700, and you could hear it back and forth between ATC and the military helicopter saying, "Hey, do you have visual on the CRJ?" And then he replied back saying, "Hey, I'll go behind the CRJ." And that's when the accident actually happened. And then ATC, before the accident, right before it happened, he told the American Express flight to go around, climb to, I think it was like 3,500. So everything happens so quick, right? And here's the concern that I have, right? So number one, you're in a highly regulated airspace. Number two, a lot of these blood rules, meaning traffic control and alerting systems, like collision systems, those were actually enforced in the early 90s. So I'm sure there was tons of bells and whistles going off as the two helicopter and aircraft merged together. And so, but there just wasn't a lot of time. Well, air traffic control, it's managing all the aircraft in its airspace. And so in that region, you have a lot going on because you have military operations, then you also have commercial operations. You have DCA, Reagan, and then you also have Washington Dulles right there, not too far. So there's a lot of traffic, but look, the first line of defense is obviously sight, right? So the military aircraft, it sounded like, because look, most of the time in these accidents, you also have weather involved. In this particular situation, you didn't have weather involved. It was actually a clear night. We saw it on the video. You actually captured the incident, the crash. So, first line of defense is the helicopter sees the aircraft and it maneuvers and navigates to avoid the CRJ. Because look, the CRJ, when it's in the landing phase of flight, what it's doing is it's running through checklists, putting gear down, putting flaps in. It's fully focused on number one, it's a shorter runway in a DCA. I mean, either it's on 3-3, which is a little over 5,000, or runway one, which is a little over 7,000. That's relatively a small runway, right? So the crew is focused on, okay, we have a mission. We're going to land in DCA, gear down, flaps down, running through checklists. The military helicopter, it sounds like it just took off and it was navigating around the traffic, which they do all the time. This is what's so hard to imagine is, the helicopter, if you look at the video, the helicopter, it's almost like it's going straight for the CRJ. And there's a lot of people online right now saying, because there's, like, just to be clear, there's a lot of stuff going on. This happens 3 to 4 miles from Donald Trump's new house, the White House. This is pretty scary. I think a lot of people thought it was a terrorist attack or something to that magnitude. Don't know if it is. We're going to hear a lot of things that come out, but it sounds like from ATC, it does sound like it was a mistake coming from, "Hey, you know what? I gave you instructions. You were supposed to go around. You were supposed to avoid the aircraft. That didn't happen." Now, again, the reaction time comes back down to humans and pilots, right? They just didn't have enough time to react and go around. You do have a lot of these incidents, right? Alaskan Airlines, they've been dealing with a lot, actually all over the world. You've seen a lot of pop-ups with accidents and incidents, and aircraft going off the end of the runway, aircraft catching on fire. It's hard to now keep up. But you also have to keep in mind too, the risk rate is a lot lower than driving a car. This is what I'll tell you. Professional pilots, like were flying last night, they are very highly trained professionals. I know because not only was I a first officer at United Express, I was a captain at United Express for 7 years. I've had 7,000 hours in this particular aircraft. You train multiple times per year, and you are very proficient on all the aircraft systems and operations. And so, back in the early 90s, actually, it was a blood regulation where the TCAS, the traffic collision and avoidance systems, were actually implemented. So all these aircraft also have that on board. So it wasn't like this was an older aircraft. It wasn't like it was unsafe. Unfortunately, accidents like this do happen. They're very rare. And look, I would just tell the public too, it's not that it's unsafe. And I would highly encourage people to not be scared to fly. It's just such a fluke accident that happened. And it's really unfortunate. My heart goes out, and my thoughts and my prayers to the people who have family members. It sounds like it was coming from Wichita to DCA. There was 60 passengers on board, four crew members, two up front, two flight attendants. Also, three. It sounds like there was three crew members in the military helicopter. So it's just a tragic accident that happens. And I project and I think that this will not happen again for a very long time.